Hi, hello. My name is Venkat. Welcome to Srikat Global IT Solutions. So today I'm going to give demo on Selenium WebDriver automation tool. Okay. So I have just listed out few points for you. That is, what is Selenium, and we are going to see like why most of the organizations are using the Selenium automation tool. What is the difference between Selenium and the other tools like UFT? So UFT, Unified Functional Testing Tool, it's an another powerful functional tool, and we are going to see like what are the disadvantages of the Selenium over other tools. Okay, so how do Selenium tool identify the objects? This is also we are going to see with different flavors of the Selenium, and the last we are going to have the walkthrough of the syllabus. Right, so these are the points. So the first point, like what is a selenium? Okay, so if somebody asks you what is a selenium, the simple example you can give, the simple answer you can give is that the selenium is nothing but like a browser test. Okay, so we are going to do the browser automation testing. Okay, fine, it is going to do automation testing of the browsers, and right, so like the IE browsers, the web application on IE browsers, web application on Firefox, Safari, Chrome, right? So these are all the browsers on which the Selenium is going to work. Okay, so we are going to see like what are the other operating systems on which the Selenium is going to work, and the browsers that Selenium is going to support, and what are the languages that Selenium is going to support. Fine. So I'll take you to the official site of the Selenium, that is seleniumhq.org, right? So when you just type seleniumhq.org, so it will take you to the home page of the Selenium help document, where the first point is what is Selenium, right? So here, like Selenium automates the browser, right? So this is the answer provided by the Selenium people who developed the Selenium WebDriver automation tool, right? So in this web page, you are going to find like the projects, download, documentation, support, and about the Selenium, right? So the page is the projects, right? So what are the components of the Selenium? So there are different components available for the Selenium are like Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid IDE. It's an integrated development environment tool. So where we are going to have the recording of the playback, record and playback of the web page. Okay, and the other tool like Selenium remote control. Okay, fine. We are going to have more concentration, and we are going to learn more about the Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid, and I'm going to teach the basics of the Selenium IDE, how it works. Okay, so this will be the basic part of the Selenium. Okay, so this is the basic part of the Selenium, where using the tool we are going to learn how the Selenium is going to locate the elements, how the Selenium is going to identify the objects. Okay, fine. So I'm just getting into the next tab, that is download. When I just click on download, so I'm getting different information here like a Selenium standalone server, and I'm getting like Internet Explorer driver, where I can just download. It's just giving in 32-bit Windows IE, 64-bit Windows IE, right? So under that, I just find different languages, client version and release date. Okay, so under languages, I find like Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, JavaScript. Okay, so this is the latest version. So you can just see the date of the release date, that is 2016 9/1. Okay. So opposite to that, I have the download link and I have the Java docs. So this is nothing but the help given for the Java language Selenium, and this is for the API docs for the C Sharp, API docs for the Ruby, Python API docs, okay, JavaScript API docs, as well as you can find the download links for the respective languages over here, right? So if you are working with the Java, you need to click on this download link, and you need to save these files. These are nothing but like the jar files. So it will take a few seconds for you to download. The size of this is 7.5. Okay, right? So it will come in the form of a .zip file. So I just clicked on the download link. I'm going to just configure like how this is going to be working with the Eclipse. Okay, right? So here is the jar files. Okay, so I'm going to just extract them and place them in a different folder. Right? So this is the folder. So I'm just creating one folder. Right? So demo jars. Okay, right. So I'm going to just cut paste this jar files, library files in one folder. Okay, right. So these are all my jar files which will be useful for me to write this script, right? So I'm not going getting into this script right away now. Okay, so we are going to see some more concepts over here, and that is like so when I just click this projects, I have on my right hand side like Selenium runs in many browsers and operating systems, right? And many programming languages and testing frameworks. Fine. So when I just click on my many browsers, so it take me to the page where it is displaying different browsers, right? So these are the browsers the Selenium is going to support. Okay, so the browsers like Firefox, Internet Explorer, so they have given clearly like on what versions also it is going to be executed, right? So you need to keep in mind on that. So you need to more cautious while you are installing these browsers. Okay, so you have to make a note of that. Okay, so the other one is Safari and Opera, Chrome, right? So these are the browsers on which the Selenium is going to work, right? So the other one is like operating systems, right? The operating systems like Microsoft Windows, Apple, and it is going to run on Linux, right? So these are the operating systems the Selenium is providing. Okay, so where you can just execute your programs. And apart from that, for each and every language, I mean to say like a scripting language, that is if you are using a C sharp, okay, so you need to use the like NUnit framework. So this is the official framework, so which actually the Selenium is going to support for the C sharp, right? For Java, so we can just work with the JUnit framework, and we can also work with the test engine. Okay, right. So the other one, as you are seeing on the screen, like JavaScript, you see like Perl, PHP. So for Ruby, RSpec, okay, for Python, so like a robot framework, UI unit, right? So these are all the frameworks and the languages that Selenium is going to be supported, right? So this is the reason, like most of the organizations, they are preferring the Selenium. Okay, Selenium in sense Selenium WebDriver with Selenium Grid. Okay, so these are the two combinations. Using that, you can just write your scripts. Okay, right. So we will see like what is this Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid and Selenium IDE and Selenium Remote Control. Okay, so as I'm telling, like Selenium Remote Control is an outdated one. Like most of the organizations, they are not using this remote control because using this remote control, the initial stage of the Selenium, most of the scripts are being built, but now they are converting into Selenium WebDriver. Fine. So we are going to learn more about the Selenium WebDriver, Selenium Grid, and IDE. Okay. So before that, one need to have a experience or the good knowledge on core Java concepts, right? So one have to understand the concepts of the core Java, right? So when you are using the Java language, so if it's going to be C sharp, you need to be good in C sharp language. If you are using a Ruby, you need to have the concepts and a good knowledge on the Ruby language, right? So they are the languages which are going to support the OOPS, object-oriented programming. So that's the reason like the Selenium has preferred for these languages, right? Fine. We are going to see like what is the difference between Selenium and UFT. Okay. So first, let me tell you like the main difference between the Selenium and the UFT is the Selenium is an open source tool. You can download the jar files from this site. So this is open for anybody. Okay, so they can simply just click on this download and they can use those jar files and they can write this script. Okay, so UFT is not like that. Okay, so you need to purchase the tool. Okay, so this is a licensed tool, right? So this is a licensed tool. You need to purchase this and you need to pay amount for this UFT tool, right? So then only you can just use them. Otherwise, you can just download for a trial version, okay, for 30 days. And once the trial version is completed, the UFT tool will expire, okay, right? So that is how the UFT tool is going to go, okay. And the other difference between the Selenium and UFT is that Selenium will support more the Java language, okay. So we are going to list out what are the languages the Selenium is going to support, right? So like Java language, it is going to support. It is going to support Ruby. It is going to support Python, Perl, right? So these are the languages the Selenium is going to support, right? So, but whereas like UFT, so UFT it will support the Java, VB scripting, okay? So it will support the VB scripting. So even VB scripting is little bit easy when compared to the core Java concepts, okay? So it has a very easy understanding, like one can just understand this VB scripting and they can write these scripts, right? So that is another difference, right? So that's the reason, like most of the organizations, they are going for the Selenium, right? So the other difference is that uh, the operating systems. When it comes to the operating systems, as we have seen, like it will support on Linux, it is going to support on Apple, right? So whereas like UFT, it supports the Windows operating system, right? So that's another drawback of the UFT, right? And the other difference is that Selenium is going to execute tests while the browser is minimized. Okay. So, but whereas like UFT need to have the application on the test to be visible on the desktop, right? So that is another good difference between this Selenium and UFT, right? Fine. The other difference is that if you need to work on different applications, okay, so something like a .NET application, you need to have the .NET add-ins in UFT, okay. So, but whereas in Selenium, it doesn't require anything, right? So you can simply just download the language on which you are working, and it is going to support for you to just work on that, okay. Fine. So that is another difference between Selenium and UFT. Okay. So the other one, like we will see, like what are the disadvantages of the Selenium over other tools. So right now we have seen like most of the advantages of the Selenium. Okay. So now we are going to see what are the disadvantages of the Selenium. Okay. Right. So the main disadvantage of the Selenium is that uh, it doesn't support any Windows based applications, okay. So it is not supporting the desktop based applications, but whereas UFT, it supports the desktop applications. So when you take the UFT, right, so just hold on. UFT and the Selenium. Okay. So the main disadvantage is that the UFT will support the desktop-based applications, right, as well as web-based applications. But Selenium does not support the desktop-based applications. It doesn't support the desktop-based applications, right? So it doesn't support that. Okay. So you need to have the third-party tool like AutoIT tool you need to use in order to identify the desktop-based applications, right? So that is a one challenging area where in Selenium you need to use the third-party tools. Like okay, for reporting you need to use the third-party tools. Okay. So when I say reporting, so as we have seen, like there is a test engine framework, right? So in test engine framework is a third party tool where we are going to use that framework to design the application, right? So using that application, we can just design the framework using this test engine concepts. Okay. So other than that, if you are using, if you want to execute the results and you need to find out what are the results of the execution, you need to use the third party tool like test ng reports. Okay. So xslt reports, so xslt reports, it comes with the test ng. Okay. So or also you can just use extent reports. Okay. So extent reports, again it's a third party tool. Okay. So where we are going to use most of the things in Selenium is the third party tools. Okay. Right. Something like auto id for the Windows based applications, right? So whereas in UFT it doesn't require anything. So directly it is going to identify the web-based applications as well as desktop-based applications, right? So that is the one advantage in UFT, right? Fine, right? So we'll see like how do Selenium tool identify the objects. Okay. So for any tool, any automation tool, so one need to understand how the tool will identify the objects. Okay. So to do that, the best practice is that we go with the record and playback. Okay. So initially, when you just record the application, and you see how the tool is identifying the objects, so then it will be easy for you to write your own script while writing any framework kind of a things, right? So we'll see like so when it comes to the Selenium, so there is a Selenium IDE. Okay. So Selenium IDE, it's in free version. So it comes with the Firefox. Like you can just install this add-in on Firefox browser. It supports only Firefox, where you can just record all your scripts, right? So that is the one way. Okay, so you can just record your scripts and you can save their scripts with the different languages like Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, and all. Okay, so you can just save the scripts. Okay, it saves with the framework, whatever the framework you are going to you are willing to view that. Okay, so if you are willing to view the Java with the test ng, you can save that. If you want to see like how this script saves for the C sharp and NUnit, you can do that as well, or else Ruby RSpec, even you can just save the script with the Ruby RSpec. Okay, right? So before I just proceed into the object identification, okay, so this thing we are going to cover in our syllabus. Okay, so before that, before that, I'll just show you like how the application will support the. So this is the application, web application, right? So I'm just taking one sample application. Okay. So this is a sample application, web application, and we'll see like how the Selenium is going to support this application to test. Okay. right? So before that, we need to identify the objects. Okay, so we have to identify how the Selenium will identify the objects. So first of all, we will learn so how the what is the HTML code like. Okay, for different web-based application. So this is a web-based application. I have accessed this addicting.com hotel application on Chrome browser. Okay, so this is the login screen, like where you can just see username and password. Okay button, and you can see few links on that. That is a new user registration and go to bill sender. Okay, fine. I'm just clicking on this username text field and right clicking on that, going to the inspect element, clicking on inspect element. Okay, so when I just click on inspect element, I'm getting the HTML code in my developer window. That is input type equal to text, name equal to username, id equal to username, class equal to login underscore input. Fine. So these are all the HTML coding that I am getting for this particular field. Okay. So if I just do similar kind of a thing on my password link, okay, password text field. So I'm getting a different kind of a inputs, like the input is common and type equal to password, name equal to password, ID equal to password, class equal to login underscore input, right? So when I just perform the similar kind of a task on login button, I'm just going to the inspect element. You can see like input type equal to submit, name equal to login, ID equal to login, class equal to login underscore button, value equal to login, right? So if you see the common difference between these three objects is a input. Okay. So we have to understand what is this HTML language. Okay. So how this the HTML language behaves for each and every object. Okay. So the first one is nothing but a tag name. Okay. So every object contains a tag name. Okay. So for button, so here the developer has given like a input. Okay. So if you take any Java based applications, it will be a button somewhere. Okay. Because here if you see type, so they have given like a submit. Okay. Right. So in Java based applications, there will be like a button. Okay. So they will give like a type equal to button. Okay, right? So it varies from different applications to application. Okay, right? So the next the from if you take after tag, there is a attributes. If you see here, type equal to submit, name equal to login, id equal to login, class equal to login underscore button. So these are all attributes. We call it like a attributes. Okay, or else like in Selenium we call them like a locators. Okay, so we call them like a locators. We call all these as like a locators. So there is a relation between this HTML code and the Selenium locators. Okay, so we have seen what are the attributes, right, and the tag names of the different application. Okay, so we'll just list out here. We have seen tag name and attributes, different attributes like name, class name, id, right? Name, id, class name. Fine. So, so when it comes to the Selenium locators, so these are the HTML language, HTML attributes. Okay, so I'll just list out the Selenium locators. Okay, so using which the object will be identified. Okay, so in Selenium locators, you'll find ID, you'll find name, you'll find class name. Okay, you'll find the tag name, you find XPath, CSS selector. Okay, so these are the locators using which the Selenium is going to identify the object. Okay. So we have seen what is the tag name. We have seen what is the name, ID, class name. So what is this XPath and CSS selector? Okay. So we will learn them like, okay. So we'll see like how to capture this XPath and CSS selector with the different browsers as well. Okay. Right. So these are the two locators, important locators in Selenium. So using that, you can identify the object. You can identify the object with ID. You can identify the object with name. You can identify the object with class name. You can identify the object with the tag, XPath, CSS. Okay. So if you see here for the button, so there is a tag name input. You can identify this particular object with the tag name. You can identify the object with the name. You can identify the object with the ID. You can identify the object with the class. So these are all the locators using which you can just identify the object with the Selenium, right? So Selenium is going to identify with these four, okay, for this button, right? So I have said like the XPath, right? So we have seen XPath and CSS selector, okay? So this Chrome is more user friendly and it supports Selenium. Okay, so that's the reason I have taken up this Chrome. Okay, so when it comes to the Firefox, you need to install the Firebug and the Firefox in order to get the XPath. Okay, so what you need to install? Firebug and Firefox to get the XPath locator. Okay, right? So for IE browser, so there is no add-ons. Okay, so there is no add-ons for this IE browser. Okay, so you cannot add anything like, okay, so where in IE doesn't support anything. Okay, so that's the reason one have to understand thoroughly like how the objects will be identified. You have to write your own XPath and CSS selectors. Okay, right, so then only it will be easy for you. Otherwise, like if your application supports only IE. So in that case, you need to just get into this. You have to write your own XPath and you have to write your own CSS selector, right? So when I say XPath, it's nothing like it's nothing but like a combination of your attributes and the tag name, right? So again, you need to understand what is this attributes and what is this tag, right? So everything, right? So we will see like what is the XPath. Okay, so when it comes to the login button, simply I'm just getting the XPath for this button. Okay, so this is the area which is highlighted. Okay, so I'm just going over here, right clicking on this highlighted text and going to the copy XPath. Okay, so I'm just coming over here and pasting my copied text. Okay, so I'm just changing this double quote. Okay, so double quote means that's a string. Okay, so I'm just giving, we need to give in single quotes in XPath, we should not give in double quotes. Okay, so that's the reason I have changed. And this asterisk I'm just changing into input. Okay, so by default it is coming with asterisk, but I'm just changing it to input. Okay, so because we need to give the input, even you can just go with the asterisk. Okay, so it doesn't it's not a problem for execution. Okay, fine. So this is the XPath for the button. Okay, so this is the XPath for button. Button XPath. Right. So this is very easy to get the XPath in Chrome. So this is how you can just get the XPath. Okay. So if you see here, so input is nothing but a tag name. Right. So inside the input you have a ID. So ID is again a attribute. Okay. And you are just giving the value of the attribute. Very simple, right? So you are giving the tag name and you are giving the attribute. You can give instead of ID, you can just pass name. Okay, right? You can just pass the name, but you have to pass the value of the name. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So if you see here for ID and name, the value is common. Okay, that is login, right? So instead of name, even you can just pass the class name. Okay, so three things you can just pass. One is a name, class name, ID. But you have to see whether the developer has given the name, ID, and class name for that particular object. So then only you can just use. Say for example, there is no name for this particular login button. So then you cannot use the name. You cannot simply say name equal to login button. It doesn't work. Okay. So if there is, if the attribute exists, okay, in the HTML code, then only you can just use them. Okay. So something like I have just used the name, ID, and you can use the class, right? So this is how you can just get the XPath for the button. Okay. So when it comes to the CSS selector, okay, so I'm just saying like login button CSS select. Okay. So this is also very easy to get in Chrome. Okay. So when I just uh, when I just mouse over on this highlighted text, you can see on my left side, you can see that there is a tooltip that is input hash login dot, right, login underscore button, and it is showing 100 cross 30, right? You can see it on my left side, right? So this is nothing but like a, so this is nothing but like a CSS selector, right? So what I've done is I just took this screenshot of this, okay, and print screen of this and paste it here, right? So this is a CSS select, okay, sorry. So up to here, this is a CSS select, okay. So that is a CSS select, right? So you can use this CSS selector to identify the object, okay. So to identify the object, you can simply give input hash login dot login underscore button, right? So input hash login dot login underscore input. So if you see here, this is a tag and login. So this is the ID and dot. So this is a login button. This is a class name, right? So this is how you can just write your own CSS selector as well. Okay. So in Chrome you are just getting, okay, so it's more user friendly. So that's the reason you are getting the directly you are getting the CSS selector. But in future, just if you want to write the CSS selector, you can just write your own. Okay. So once you are familiar with the attributes and the tag names and all, right? So I'm just closing this screenshot, and so that's all for today. So we are going to just I'm going to just walk you through the syllabus. Okay, so what exactly we are going to cover in this particular course. Okay, so if you just see here, so this is a core Java concept. So I'm going to cover all the core Java concepts, that is OOPS concept, and I'm going to help you out in installing all your configuring the environment in your own desktop. Okay, so in your environment, I'm going to just help you to install everything like with Java, going from Java to the Eclipse. So we are going to use the Eclipse IDE for writing all our scripts. Okay, so I'm going to help you out everything. Okay, so whatever the tools that are required for the Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so we are going to learn about the loops and decision making arrays functions in Java, and the other one is like object oriented programming. This is an important concept, and we are going to see like the access modifier, exceptional handling. So exceptional handling, like whenever you get any errors, like how to overcome them, like, okay. So the other important concept is like a collection API and reflection API framework for designing your hybrid framework. Okay, so we are going to learn these concepts, and the other one like string classes and XSL file reading writing. Okay, so we are going to use the Excel file to read and write for the input and for the results, right? So when it comes to the Selenium WebDriver concepts, I'm going to teach you like the environment setup, how you can just install the Selenium IDE, and how you can configure the Selenium WebDriver, right? So I'm going to teach you about the Eclipse concepts as well, right? So how you can just access the files, how you can just how you can create the projects, okay? You can rename the files, how you can switch to the different workspaces, and right, so what else, like how to change the compilers, right? How to configure the framework, okay, framework jars, right? How to install them like testng. So everything I'm going to teach you, right? So the other one, like initially we'll go with the IDE. As I said, it will take one class, okay? So where you can just see like record and playback, okay? Right? Even like we'll understand more like object identification in Selenium IDE. Right. So after that, like Selenium locators, I think you are familiar now, like what are the locators of the Selenium. So as I have teaching you, like right. So like IDE name, class name, and web element and all. Okay, XPath, CSS selector, and how you can write the customized XPaths and CSS selector. So this is required, and identifying all the web pages, web application, okay, right? Objects on the web application. So we'll see like drop down this box, text field, buttons, radio buttons, check boxes, right? Frames, okay. So we are going to see all, okay. So the other important concept, like implementing the weight conditions, we'll see like how this implicit weight and explicit weight and fluent weight are going to work, okay. So other one, like a different type of functions, different kind of methods, how it is going to work. So other important, like switching from different windows. Okay, so this is important, and switching iframes, right? And alert the pop-up windows, and mouse movement and keyboard operations. And we have seen like I have just explained you like how to handle the Windows based application, right? So we are going to learn about the Auto IT tool. So handling the Windows dialog boxes. Okay. So I'm going to teach you with build tool. Okay. That is Maven. Okay. And TestNG, and the other one is a Jenkins continuous integration tool. Okay. So the concept is a Selenium grid. So we are going to learn Selenium grid, and we are going to learn executing our same script with different browsers. Okay, so different browsers. When I said like different browsers, like what are the browsers that are supported by the Selenium? Okay, that is Chrome, Firefox, Safari, okay, Mozilla, okay, and IE, right? So we will just set up all these on a different remote machine, and we'll say like how to access them and how to run our script on remote machines. Okay, connecting to the remote machines, right? Different machines, and as well like on our own machine as well, right? So we will see that concept. Okay, so that comes like a remote web driver. Okay, so we will learn about a web driver, and we will learn what is a remote web driver, right? So these are the concepts what we are going to learn in our syllabus, right? So thank you very much. Okay, so if you are just interested, you can just contact to the Shrikant. Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you.